So, yeah. I'm not sure if I should even post this because it still feels unreal, but I haven't been able to sleep and I don't know how else to process it. I'm a nurse, and last night something happened to me on my way home that I can't explain. For context, I work night shifts, so my hours are brutal. Most of my drives home are spent battling exhaustion, hyping myself up with bad gas station coffee, and listening to true crime podcasts because, apparently, I hate myself. I know, dumb, right? Anyway, last night was the same as usual. Another 12-hour shift, too many patients, and a new kind of tired that I didn't even know existed. I left the hospital a little after 2 a.m. The streets were dead, which is normal for that time, but there's something eerie about driving home when it feels like the whole world is asleep. It's just you, your headlights, and the occasional street lamp. My car, an old beat-up Honda Civic, isn't exactly quiet, so between the engine hum and my Spotify playlist, I had some noise to keep me awake. Everything was fine until I hit this stretch of road that's surrounded by woods. If you live in a rural area, you know the type. No lights, no houses, just trees on both sides and the occasional deer waiting to ruin your night. That's when I got this weird feeling. Like, you know you're being watched? I tried to shake it off because, hello, I was alone. Still, I couldn't help glancing in my rearview mirror, and that's when I saw something. There was someone sitting in my back seat. I slammed on the brakes so hard I almost gave myself whiplash. My car skidded to a stop in the middle of the road, and my heart was pounding so loud I swear I could hear it over the engine. The figure, I couldn't make out their face, but it was definitely a person was just sitting there, like they'd been riding with me the whole time. Instinctively, I turned around to look. The back seat was empty. Now, at this point, I should have just floored it and gone home, but apparently I'm not that smart. I grabbed my phone, turned on the flashlight, and shined it around the car. Nothing. I even got out to check under the seats because, I don't know, maybe I thought a full-grown adult could somehow fold themselves up like a creepy origami figure. Still, nothing. I told myself I must have imagined it. Lack of sleep does weird things to your brain, right? So, I got back in, locked the doors, because, yeah, now I'm paranoid, and kept driving. But the feeling didn't go away. If anything, it got worse. I swear, the air in the car felt heavy, like someone else was in there with me. I tried to ignore it, focusing on the road and counting down the minutes until I'd be home, but then I felt it, breathing on my neck. I froze. I didn't even dare to look in the mirror this time because I knew what I'd see. Instead, I just kept driving, gripping the steering wheel so tight my hands went numb. I whispered, "You're not real," over and over again, like it would somehow make this nightmare stop. And then, out of nowhere, the car got cold. Like icebox cold. My windows started fogging up, and the hairs on my arms stood straight up. I was too scared to move, but then my phone, which was sitting in the cup holder, lit up. It was a notification from Spotify. The song I'd been playing paused, and a new one started. I don't even remember what it was called, but it was this slow, haunting piano piece that definitely wasn't on my playlist. At that point, I lost it. I hit the gas, speeding down that road like I was in a damn action movie. I didn't care if I got pulled over, I just needed to get out of there. By the time I made it to my driveway, the cold was gone, the weird breathing had stopped, and my car felt normal again. I sat there for a few minutes trying to calm down before finally getting out. I checked the back seat one last time, just in case, and ran inside, locking every door and window behind me. I haven't been able to stop thinking about it. What did I see? Was it just exhaustion messing with me? Or was there really someone in my car? And if there was, where did they go? I don't know. All I know is I'm calling out sick tonight. no way I'm driving down that road again anytime soon. Has anyone else ever had something like this happen to them? Because honestly, I'm still shaking just thinking about it. So, a couple of weeks ago, my best friend Kyle and I decided to check out this abandoned medical asylum in our town. It's kind of infamous. Everyone's heard stories about it, but no one really knows what went down there. The asylum is right behind this old kindergarten, which somehow makes it even creepier. The kindergarten's been closed for years, so the whole area feels dead. We'd been joking about going for weeks, and Kyle, being the idiot he is, was like, "Let's do it tonight." It was almost evening, and I didn't want to seem like a coward, so I was like, "Yeah, sure, why not?" I regret that so much now. We got there around 6:30, right as the sun was starting to go down. The fence around the asylum was half falling apart, so it wasn't hard to sneak through. The building itself was massive, with boarded up windows and graffiti everywhere. It looked worse up close, like it was holding its breath, waiting for someone dumb enough to come inside. Spoiler alert, that was us. As soon as we stepped in, it was freezing. I thought it was just the evening chill, but it was too cold, like walking into a freezer. Kyle joked about ghosts right away, and I just laughed it off, even though my stomach was already doing flips. The inside was trashed. There were broken chairs, papers scattered everywhere, and these creepy old medical posters peeling off the walls. It smelled damp and stale, like no one had been in there for years. We wandered around for a bit, joking about how it looked like the set of a horror movie, but neither of us was really laughing. It felt wrong, like the air was heavier inside and every sound we made echoed back a little too loud. Then we started hearing noises. At first, it was small stuff like creaks and little tapping sounds. Kyle was like, "It's probably just the building settling," and I wanted to believe that, but the noises weren't random. They were deliberate, like footsteps, like someone was following us. We kept going because, I don't know, we're idiots, I guess. We ended up in what looked like an old rec room. There were these tiny chairs, toys, and even a dusty rocking horse in the corner. I remember saying, "What kind of asylum has a rec room with toys?" And Kyle just shrugged, but neither of us wanted to stay in there long. It felt off, like someone was watching us. As we were leaving the room, we heard a voice. I swear to you, it was a voice, faint but clear, saying, "Come back." We both froze. I looked at Kyle, and he was pale as hell. "Did you hear that?" I whispered. He nodded, his eyes wide. We both turned back to look at the room, but it was empty. "Maybe it's a homeless guy," Kyle said, his voice shaking. I wanted to believe him, but something in me knew it wasn't. The way the voice echoed, it didn't sound right. It wasn't like it came from the room. It sounded like it came from everywhere. We kept going, telling ourselves we were just being paranoid. We went down a hallway lined with old patient rooms. Most of the doors were missing, but one at the end was shut tight. Naturally, Kyle wanted to check it out because he has zero survival instincts. I told him we should just leave, but he was already walking toward it. As he got closer, the noises started again, this time louder. Footsteps, shuffling, even a faint whispering. It was coming from behind us now, but when we turned around, there was no one there. That was when I started panicking. "Kyle, we need to go," I said, but he wasn't listening. He was already pushing the door open. Inside, there was this old hospital bed, and on it was a pile of blankets, all dusty and torn. It looked like someone had been living there. "See? It's just a homeless guy," Kyle said, sounding almost relieved. But then the blankets moved. I wish I was making this up. They moved just a little, like something underneath them shifted. Kyle backed up so fast he almost tripped, and I swear my heart stopped. We stood there, frozen, staring at the bed. Then the blankets fell, just slid off onto the floor, and there was nothing there. Nothing. The bed was empty, and then the door slammed shut. We both screamed, banging on the door, trying to get it open. It wouldn't budge. The footsteps started again, this time running down the hallway outside. The whispers turned into laughter, this horrible echoing laughter that sounded like it was coming from right next to us. I don't even know how we got out. Kyle says he doesn't remember either. One second, we were trapped, and the next, we were outside, sprinting across the field back to the car. Whatever was in that asylum, it wasn't a homeless guy. This isn't my personal experience, but a story my mom told me. It happened a long time ago, and honestly, it still gives me chills whenever I think about it. I'll share 2 strange events that happened to her. The first one happened one evening. My mom had gone to bed early, trying to get some rest. At the time, my brother had his computer set up at the end of the hallway. That was his spot. He'd spend hours there playing games, like any teenager back then. My mom's bedroom wasn't far from the hallway, so she could hear pretty much everything. As she was lying in bed, she suddenly heard a knock on her door. At first, she ignored it, thinking it was nothing. But then, it happened again, louder this time. Irritated, she got up and went to my brother, who was at his computer with his headphones on, fully absorbed in his game. She told him to stop messing around, saying she was trying to sleep and that his little prank wasn't funny. My brother looked confused and said it wasn't him. He swore he hadn't even left his chair. My mom didn't believe him. She figured he was just being annoying, so she went back to bed. Not long after, the knocking came again, only this time it was louder and more persistent. My mom, now frustrated, marched back to my brother and snapped at him, telling him to knock it off. He swore, again, that it wasn't him. He even took off his headphones and said, "Mom, I'm not joking. I've been here the whole time." My mom still didn't believe him, but she was starting to feel uneasy. A few days later, my mom ran into one of our neighbors who told her something that changed everything. Before we moved into that house, an elderly couple had lived there. The man had passed away first due to health issues, leaving the woman alone in the house. After he died, strange things started happening. Knocking sounds, unexplained noises, stuff like that. The woman believed the spirit of her husband was haunting her. But here's the chilling part. The neighbor said that, not long after the man's death, the woman was found dead in the house too. She had been hiding under the bed. She died there, terrified and alone. When my mom heard that, she finally believed my brother wasn't playing pranks. The second incident happened not long after that. One night, my mom went outside into our backyard. It was late and everyone else was already in bed. While she was out there, she noticed a figure standing near the fence that separated our yard from the garden. It was a man. She could only see him from behind, but he was wearing a light-colored shirt. At first, my mom thought it was my dad. Maybe he'd stepped outside for some fresh air. But when she went back inside to check, everyone was in their rooms, sound asleep, including my dad. She panicked, thinking maybe an intruder had gotten into our yard. But after what the neighbor told her, she started to wonder if it was something else entirely. Looking back, I can't help but think that house was truly haunted. Those knocks, the shadowy figure, the tragic history of the previous owners, it all adds up to something that still creeps me out to this day. This happened a little while ago, and I still can't fully wrap my head around it. It started as a completely normal day. I took my daughter to the doctor for a regular checkup, nothing serious. Just one of those routine things to make sure everything's fine. The waiting room was quiet. The kind of place where the only sounds are the hum of a fish tank and the occasional cough. My daughter was flipping through one of those old kids' magazines with half the pages missing, and I was scrolling through my phone, not paying much attention to anything. Across from us was this elderly woman. She had this really kind vibe, like one of those people who just make you feel warm and comfortable without even trying. She smiled at my daughter and said, "What a sweet little girl. How old is she?" I said her age and smiled back. "Oh, such a wonderful age," the woman said. "My granddaughter just turned 6. She's the light of my life. I haven't seen her in a while, but I'll be visiting her soon." We talked a little more, nothing deep, just the kind of small talk you'd have in a waiting room. She asked about my daughter's school, told me how much she missed spending time with her own family. Then her name got called, and she stood up slowly, using a floral patterned cane. Before leaving, she turned to my daughter and said, "You be good for your mom, okay? She's lucky to have such a sweet girl." My daughter grinned and waved, and the woman smiled at us one last time before heading through the door to see the doctor. That was it. Just a brief, pleasant interaction. I didn't think about it again. We finished our appointment, went home, and everything was completely normal until later that evening. I was folding laundry in the living room while my daughter was playing in her room. Out of nowhere, she came running into the room and said, "Mommy, the nice granny from the doctor's office is here." I froze, thinking I must have misheard her. "What?" I asked. "She's in my room," she said, like it was the most normal thing in the world. She said she came to play with me. My heart started racing. "What do you mean she's in your room? Where is she now?" "She's standing in the corner," she said, pointing back toward the hallway. I didn't want to scare her, so I forced myself to stay calm. "Why don't you stay here for a minute, sweetheart?" I said. Then I grabbed the closest thing I could find, a broom, and walked down the hall. Her room was empty. I checked the closet, the corners, even under the bed. Nothing. I went through the whole house, checked every lock, every window. No one was there. When I came back, my daughter was sitting on the couch, looking perfectly calm. "She's gone now," she said, like it was no big deal. "But she said she'll come back soon." I didn't sleep much that night. The next day, I tried to brush it off. Kids have active imaginations, right? Maybe she was just pretending, but something about it didn't sit right with me. The whole thing felt too specific. I decided to call the doctor's office just to ease my mind. I asked the receptionist about the elderly woman we met, but there was this long pause before she said, "I don't have anyone by that name on yesterday's schedule. Are you sure it was here?" That's when the unease turned into something closer to dread. Over the next few days, my daughter kept mentioning her. "The granny says she likes our house," she'd say while coloring at the table. Or, "She's sitting over there," pointing to a shadowy corner of the living room. Once, she said, "She's smiling at you." I didn't dare look. It wasn't just her comments either. Little things started happening. The lights in her room flickered almost constantly, but when I checked the bulbs, they were fine. I'd hear faint tapping on the windows at night, even though no one was outside. And once, while I was in the shower, I swore I heard someone humming. The worst part was how calm my daughter was through all of it, like this was completely normal to her. Then one night, she woke me up. She was standing next to my bed, holding her blanket. "Mommy," she whispered, "the granny says she's leaving now. She just wanted to make sure I was happy." I sat up, my heart pounding. "Where is she?" "She's in the hallway," she said. I didn't check. I didn't want to know. I just pulled my daughter into bed with me and held her until she fell asleep. After that, it all stopped. No more mentions of the granny, no more weird noises or flickering lights. It was like she'd never been here. I still think about her though. I don't know what she was or why she chose us, but my daughter was so sure she was real, and maybe, in some way, she was. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, let me know by leaving a comment below. Your feedback helps me create more content you'll love. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for more updates. See you in the next video!